Hey there folks, my name is Cypher, your friendly YouTube illiterate, and today I want to talk to you about Ace Combat 7 and why it's my favorite fucking game of the last... Jesus Christ, has it been 9 years? That was a long time ago, damn. Anyone who knows me knows I'm a sucker for flight action games. I have binged War Thunder for hundreds of hours, I've played through both Hawks games a couple dozen times, I've considered playing World of Warplanes for at least 1 second, so... you get the idea. Now, although I've always had an interest in aircraft, due in no small part to getting a book of military aircraft for my birthday as a 4-year-old, I don't play these games to expand upon that knowledge. No, I play these games seeking the thrill of one single game from my youth. Ace Combat 04 Shattered Skies.
I have so far to go.
Now, Shattered Skies holds a special place in my heart. It was the first video game I ever owned, and I was at GameStop the very night it released by complete accident. I was 4 or 5 years old and I bought it blind, not having a bit of a clue about what it could be. All I knew was I liked the cool plane on the front. My dad bought it for me and got himself a copy of Medal of Honor, thinking he'd play the gritty World War II game that was rated M, and he'd give me the cool futuristic plane game because it was rated E for everyone. He probably expected his 4-year-old mouth breather of a son to experience a clean, lifeless game made for kids. Good lord, was he wrong. Shattered Skies was a goddamn masterpiece, and even though I didn't really know it at the time, I was playing a game that should have absolutely blown me away. It had music that basically made even the most boring parts of the game easy to sit through. It also had well thought out characters with well written story arcs. It had smooth gameplay, everything worked, it was simple to understand and hard to master, and the level design is paced nearly perfectly. Fuck you, Tango Line. And it wasn't just some boring easy slog either. The game made you work to win. The sequels were just as good. Ace Combat 5 with its improved graphics, more personal story, and even more massive battles and moody music. And Ace Combat 0 with its Titan controls, badass music with the Spanish flair, and Arthurian-based lore never failed to entertain me. Even the PSP title, Ace Combat X, was a great experience despite its flaws.
Got a reading on radar. Something's coming in at high speed. It's a missile. What? Where? Where is it? Answer me now. Eugene! The Protoss planes. The missile's coming from the Protoss planes.
Ace Combat did a bit of a stumble with the next entry in the series, Fires of Liberation, and that stumble turned into a full-on yard sale of a tumble down a huge hill. Despite all of this, despite no less than 7 entries into the series since, entries that range from mediocre to downright god-awful to... You know what, I'm not even going to talk about that one. Despite all of that, I was still hopeful that the series would get a title worthy of its namesake one day. Well, it only took 11 years, but I finally got my wish. And hot damn did I get my wish. Ace Combat 7 Skies Unknown was announced at E3 2015, right around the same time as a title that I am much less fond of now. And my brain fucking exploded. It hit the shelves on January 18th, 2019 and blew my expectations out of the water. Now, before I get into that, let me talk about something that gave me a fucking aneurysm instead. I said January 18th, but that's a lie. It released several days ahead of schedule to the Japanese market, getting spoiled on Reddit, YouTube, Twitch, etc. And it released 2 weeks late for PC players. Basically, from January the 18th to February the 1st now. And the download didn't unlock until almost the next day. I remember the frustration of everyone in the voice chat in the Ace Combat Discord when that happened. Anyway, I digress. My expectations were beginning to get a bit low. We're talking about the first numbered title to a series in 11 years. A game that had been delayed for 4 goddamn years. I was pleasantly surprised to find, however, that this game was not only decent, but it was almost as good as the games I had played so long ago as a young pants shitter. What we get is a decently complicated war story centered around 2 countries going to war with each other, the effect that war has on people, commentary on the dangers of drone warfare and AI, a story of friendships, rivalry, conspiracy, murder, heroism, and villainy, and it's all voice acted with the most natural sounding voice actors of the series so far. Though that might not be such a hard bar to pass.
Answer me now! Eugene!
All of these points are hammered home by music crafted by Keiki Kobayashi and a skilled team of musicians and directors. Music highlighting set pieces and turning points and plot twists so perfectly it might as well be a goddamn mathematics equation. Quiet moments of gameplay are reflected by tense music that then explodes into action as soon as the game does. And certain leitmotifs will give you a hint, even when no enemies are on screen, as to precisely what hive of bees you've just stuck your metaphorical dick into. My favorite instance of this is in Mission 7, which does this not once, but twice. First, when the mission update brings you from attacking ground sites to chasing down drones in the middle of a raging thunderstorm.
Spare Squadron, this mission needs to be quick. Target radar facilities and AA weaponry. They're set up on a rugged terrain, and there's a lot of cloud cover. The drones have jumped on the recon team. Our friends aren't equipped for air-to-air. They need our cover. All 444 aircraft, get them out of there. Not even one is to go down. Destroy the UAVs.
That's impossible. I'm not flying in there to help out some assholes I don't know shit about.
Then a second time when Mihai makes his second appearance. This time as an ace fighter rather than a boogeyman just outside of your radar range.
Sooner. I want to understand the enemy.
But of course, that ace fight wouldn't matter if the game handled like dog shit, so how are those controls? Basically perfect. Project Aces has taken everything good about the game's Up to Fires of Liberation and combined them with everything good in Infinity and Assault Horizon. They've taken away the on-rails bullshit of Assault Horizon, yet brought back environment destruction. Aircraft damage models. Hell yeah, make metal bleed! And post-stall maneuvering, which now requires skill to pull off instead of just a button press. It basically can't get any better than this. Everything is responsive, there's basically no delay between when you push a button and when the plane starts to react. Heavy fighters feel powerful and weighty, low-speed attackers feel heavy and aggressive, and nimble fighter planes feel light and snappy. The guns have taken a half step back from where they were in Ace Combat 6. They no longer rip planes apart from a glancing blow like in 6, nor do they require you to overheat your guns to get a kill like in the original trilogy. It's a good neutral ground between the two and I kinda like it. The parts system taken straight from Infinity and Joint Assault gives you new ways to mildly improve your aircraft. You can give yourself more missiles, more powerful weapons, better turning, and longer range weaponry. None of it's overpowered enough to make the game's harder difficulties feel like a cakewalk, though. The way the aircraft interacts with the world is even more awesome than in previous titles. Flying through clouds will spray water all over your screen, and eventually ice over your cockpit and wings and make the plane harder to control. Getting struck by lightning damages the electronics in your plane and makes dogfighting harder. Flying in a valley may result in you catching an updraft and your plane getting thrown around a bit. Missiles may fly off course in the clouds and you may lose lock entirely. It's a wonderfully immersive experience. And finally, the sound design is incredibly immersive. Being inside the cockpit muffles your aircraft and makes the world around you sound like you're inside of a sealed aircraft cockpit. Imagine that. Flying through clouds tones down the in-game music, making it sound muffled and distant. Explosions are bassy and cause your plane and controller to rock and rumble. Missiles whine and hiss as they drop away and speed towards your enemy, and the missile alert system is just loud enough to let you know some asshole has just launched a death stick at you, while not being so loud that it distracts you from the task at hand. You may even learn to drown it out if you're like me. All of this adds up to an experience. Not a game, but an experience. It's like being inside the best parts of Top Gun for 10 hours, but with less weird volleyball scenes. I know what you're saying now. All of that sounds great, but how are you meant to feel when you play it? Like a total badass. This game matches the difficulty of the original trilogy and then cranks it up to 11 at times. It will do its best to kill you. This has led to some controversy. It's even been called the Dark Souls of flight action games.
You know, people like blood sausage too. People are morons.
Nice attitude.
That's not the whole story, though. The game isn't overly difficult, but it is a game that requires knowledge on its mechanics and requires you to open your ears and listen. You will need to pay attention to your mission briefings, and they will tell you what your goal in the mission is. You'll need to keep an ear out for your AWACS and allies. They'll give you updates on what they see, but you can't see. Most importantly, the core gameplay mechanics are heavily reliant on your ears. If you are listening, you'll eventually learn to react to your surroundings correctly. The familiar buzz of the missile lock signals you're locked onto an enemy and will tell you to check your position on that enemy and fire. The sirens of the missile alert system and the flashing red dot in your peripheral vision will make you automatically learn to pull evasive maneuvers. The whiz of cannon rounds flying past your cockpit will similarly remind you that someone is not only on your tail, but they're so close that they've deemed you unworthy of precious sidewinders and instead are trying to get rid of you the old-fashioned way. Overall, I found my experience with this game to be overwhelmingly to my liking, and I was put into a state of nostalgia like no other. None of this is to say the game is without flaws. Frame rate can stutter even on high-end machines during certain parts of the game. Also, for those of you with gigantic, expensive monitors, ultra-wide support is not very good, which isn't quite to the point of being unacceptable, but it is still a pain in the ass. Another problem with this game is the lack of HOTAS support. Originally, it only worked with the HOTAS provided in the special edition of the game, and while this has been somewhat expanded since, it's still not universally accepting of your HOTAS controllers. Though this is a problem, my view has always been that not only is this not the way the game was meant to be played, but the game actually handles better with a controller. I do accept that people expect a flight game to work with HOTAS, though I just don't think it's so vital to the experience that one should literally return the game and review bomb it on Steam just because it isn't there. This isn't DCS. There's also the issue of key remapping being impossible, which isn't a big deal if you play it with a controller, but it does get annoying if you're some kind of weirdo that tries to play it with the mouse and keyboard. And lastly, multiplayer is bare bones and broken. This isn't the main focus of the game, so it gets a pass in my opinion, but 2 deathmatch modes, 4 maps, tons of hackers, and broken parts combination and weaponry all means that the game is already pretty much dead multiplayer-wise. Hopefully this will get updated in the future, but I sincerely doubt that. All of that aside, I like the game. It gets better with every update, and the new DLC is very promising, with Unexpected Visitor being so far the best grand air battle in the game, and one of the best missions in the series, up there with Kimona from Ace Combat 4 and Mayhem from Zero so far. It sufficiently satisfies my cravings for cheesy dialogue and ridiculous over-the-top super weapons. The selling point for this series has always been about grand battles underlined with interesting stories and world politics, and Ace Combat 7 lives up to that perfect. If I had to rate this game, I'd give it a buy this game and play it out of 5 examined life of gamings. Thanks for watching.